Everything you do and experience is a direct reflection of your energy, but most people don't realize they have the power to change their energy. This is the focus of this talk. If you like it, I encourage you to like, subscribe, and comment if the content resonates with you, or even if it doesn't. So we're taught to believe we are victims of our circumstances and victims of our past and victims of our genetic makeup even. But maybe that's not so. I'm going to argue it's not so. That we have the ability to change our energy at any given moment, really. We can start our days being frustrated by the weather, what we heard on the news, or the person that cut us off on the way to work. All of these external influences shifting us and making us sort of spin out of control. Someone might make a comment at work, or a family member makes a comment, and this dictates the mood that you're in. So why not change all that and take control of your energy? When you do this, you take control of the story of your life, to be quite honest. You create a new story rather than dwelling on the old stories, and we do get so stuck in our old stories. We can get stuck there for a long, long time. So why not create new stories? Let's break down how energy plays out. It's your thoughts, it's your emotions, it's the way you carry your body, yourself, your attitude, your focus, and it's your beliefs as well. And all of these are within your control. So think of certain people who enter a room and the energy shifts, right? We've all been there. That certain person comes into the room and the energy just kind of shifts. Their heaviness can really bring down the whole space. So what kind of energy do you bring into spaces? Do you elevate the spaces that you come into, or do you bring them down? The beautiful thing about energy is that it can be changed in an instant because it is energy. You can affect your energy, frankly, in the blink of an eye. You need not take months trying to figure this out. You need not to engage in therapy for months and years to try to figure things out. What we can do is make a decision to take responsibility for our energy and to no longer blame the circumstances or those external things, but to start to create our own. We do this starting with imagination, really. Because here's the thing, the brain doesn't know if what it's experiencing is actually in that physical external reality or if it's in the mind. Either way, if you think positive outcomes, your brain is going to respond to those by firing neurons, and those fired neurons create new neural pathways. And this is what creates new patterns of thinking and feeling. A practical way to start working with this is to really get clear about what you want. And this is regardless of your current circumstances. And write it down. So spend some time reflecting on, well, who do I want to become? Who do I want to be? And think about all aspects of that future self and what it's going to look like and feel like. And once you've got that established and you've got that ideal vision of yourself in the future, every morning you're going to, even before you open your eyes, you're going to spend a little bit of time thinking of future you. You're going to feel like your desires have already been fulfilled, that you're there, that you've become, you feel on all levels, that person, that reality. You're visualizing it like it's already there, that you're having that experience in that future version of you. So rather than, for example, rolling out of bed and grabbing your phone and start scrolling through or turning on the news and hearing all of that negative infiltration, why not spend that first few minutes of your day visualizing the person that you're meant to be, the person that you're meant to become? There's so much more than positive thinking. What I'm referring to here is really an understanding that your perception creates your reality, and recognizing that you have the power to choose your response to any situation. When you think about someone you admire, for example, who radiates positive energy, what's different about them compared to you? Is it that their situation is so much better than yours? Or is it their energy and the energy that they've established to create this internal state that isn't influenced by their external factors, the external forces upon them? So be aware of your energy throughout the day as well. Notice when it shifts and what affects it. So start to be conscious of this. Maybe even take notes. Have a notepad. Write it on your phone in your notes app. So what kinds of things affect you? What kind of people and situations drain your energy? And then what kind of activities and thoughts boost your energy? So start to create an inventory and really understand this awareness is super important. The more aware you become, the more you can make different choices. Choices about exposing yourself to energies that drain you or things that are draining you. Choose to be around positive people and choose the activities that actually boost your energy. You do have a choice. Deliberately shift your energy from what's wrong to what's right. So rather than dwelling on the what's wrong and seeing things as failures, maybe you shift that attitude to what are the opportunities here? What can I learn from this? Treat every opportunity as a learning opportunity. Your energy is shaped by your thoughts, beliefs, habits, and subconscious patterns. So it's deep. And they're kind of like the operating system of your brain, if you want to use that computer analogy. And just like an operating system in a computer, every once in a while there needs to be an upgrade, right? There needs to be a leveling up, if you will. Thinking about, where you're at right now. Do your beliefs serve you? Are they true? If you're starting to notice things that are these negative patterns, then that upgrade is really, really essential. Write down what you believe about yourself. So coming back to a little bit of a journaling, writing activity, what do you believe about yourself? And this can be hard, right? But do it. And think about also, and write it down, where did that belief come from? And is that belief actually true? And what would it look like if you believed the opposite? So many of us have these limited beliefs, and they're not actually our own. We inherited them through our parents, through our teachers, our schools, our institutions. So you get to choose those beliefs. You did choose those ones, and you get to choose the new ones, right? And it's not necessarily easy. It's not about flicking the switch, as I always say. It takes time. It takes repetition. It takes consistency. And you'll feel uncomfortable. You'll feel uncomfortable when you're starting to make some of these changes. But guess what? Change, any kind of change, necessarily moves you through some discomfort to get there. When you change your beliefs, you change your thoughts. When you change your thoughts, you change how you're feeling. When you're changing how you're feeling, you change your actions. And when you change your actions, you're changing your life. So you see how this all flows together, right? It's very systematic. Think of your habits too, and those actions that you take every day that add up to create your life. All of these habits, these things we do on autopilot, right? Examine some of those too. Are some of those habits, pick one or two or three or as many as you can, are they rendering a net positive or net negative in terms of your overall energy? So you can change your habits just like you can change your thoughts. Start with one. Here's a good one for me. It was choosing to get my sleep routines regulated. So getting to bed earlier and getting up earlier. And you can do this in incremental ways. You don't need to be radical about it. It could be just changing that 15 minutes, a little bit to bed earlier, 15 minutes up earlier, 15 minutes. Do that for a week and then change it another week, another increment, that kind of thing. Till you get to that point where you're in bed by 10, you're up by 5 or 6. You need to be disciplined about this. And the thing is, you're going to start to feel good about the changes you're making. And you should reward yourself. Doing things consistently is really, really important. And what's really super important is that you do them when you don't feel like it. When there's that sort of that draw within inside of you, that negative kind of, no, not today. That's the day to make sure that you do it. Your brain, remember, likes the familiar. There's this consistency that it likes. It likes the path of least resistance, if you will. But and you're persisting in changing your habits over a period of time, and it doesn't necessarily have to take too long, these new habits are formed and they become more automatic. Think of where you focus your mind as well. Think of where your attention goes. And what we need to think from an energy point of view is where your attention goes, your energy flows, right? So where is your energy flowing? If you tend to dwell on problems and on the negative and on the challenges all the time, how do you think that's affecting your energy? What if you started to focus more on solutions? So if you notice what's wrong rather than what's right, think about how that's impacting your energy. The more we focus on problems, guess what? The more problems we're going to find. You may have been there. I lived most of my life that way. So if you consistently start to look more at the positive, you're going to start to live a life with more opportunities. The more you hear this, it can start to sound like, oh, who is this guy? Like, is he talking about magic or some kind of wishful thinking? But when you think about this and you understand this is simply how the brain works. It filters information based on what you tell it is important. So when where you're consistently focusing on, the brain recognizes that as being important. And that's where it will begin to focus or continue to focus. So choose your focus wisely and train yourself to look for the good, to find a lesson in everything, every challenge. Like everything, as I said, is an opportunity for us to learn. And you can think about it as you're never losing, right? You're always learning. And this takes work. So trust me, I've been there, I've been working on this, for a long time. But when you start to shift and your mindset starts to gravitate towards the more positive, your whole life will begin to shift as well. You begin to approach your problems really with a solution-oriented mindset. One of the simple tools that will help you is to write down 3 things at the end of the day that you're grateful for. So this gratitude approach is so important. And you want to make these unique every day. And if you write them down, it's more powerful. And if you write down also why are you grateful? Because in the why, you connect to the feeling of it, right? And that's really, really powerful. And the more you use detail too, so for example, I'm grateful for my partner. That's nice. But what about something like, I'm grateful for my partner and the way they smiled at me at dinner time? That specificity is important because what you're doing is you're training the brain to start to notice the good things, to start to pick up on the good things and not dwell on the negative. We need to look at our body as well if we're talking about energy. So this is all holistic, right? So we need to be taking care of the mental energy, but we also need to be looking after the physical body. So obviously regular exercise, going for walks, doing yoga, paddling, whatever your shtick is, do it. Lack of exercise will leave you feeling sluggish and unmotivated. So get out for that walk daily, if nothing more. You need adequate sleep to keep the body recharged, right? Poor sleep affects your moods and it affects your resiliency. So getting that regular sleep, that example that I just gave about, regulating some of your stuff, getting to bed earlier, getting up earlier. And think about your diet. So are you eating nutritionally in a way to fuel your body? I often say sometimes we think more about the quality or the type of fuel we're putting into our vehicles than we do about what we're eating. I'm an advocate for keeping diets simple, right? Eliminate more of the processed foods, as best you can, and start to pay attention to how you feel after you eat a meal, for example. Your body will consistently tell you. And if you find yourself always in a stupor and heavy after eating, that will indicate that there's something not quite right in the mix of what you're eating in the diet. Diet in heavy and processed foods, for example, often leads to these energy crashes and mood swings. If you've gotten used to that heavy kind of feeling after eating, for example, when you start to change up your diet, you'll notice quite quickly how much more alive and energetic you feel, energized. Caffeine and sugar will, for many of us, become, these energy boosts, but the way that they work is really not that helpful, right? Because of the crashes. So I'd like you to explore all of these things, all of these aspects, and think about how you can start to make basically some simple changes, right? Because if you start with small changes, they start to have a really big impact over time. Think about as well your environment. So what is your the environment that you're living in and working in, because your environment impacts your energy profoundly. So if you look around your home and notice, is it cluttered? Is it messy? Is it disorganized? Or is it organized and a little bit more serene? This matters, right? Your workspace. Does your workspace inspire you? Does it feel like an uplifting energy? Or is it cluttered and messy and draining? Do your surroundings have that sense of like a buoyancy, or do they have a heaviness around them? So I'm going to invite you to create environments that support your energy. And so that might just be as simple as decluttering. Maybe you need to lighten the load a little bit, get rid of some stuff. Cleaning up is always a good feeling, right? Getting rid of things that are just there, occupying dust and space, isn't always helpful. Just because they are there doesn't mean they need to be there. So lighten the energetic load of the space. Maybe think about more plants. Like if you're a plant person, I love plants. So if you can have more plants in your space, it's a beautiful living, entity. Think of artwork that inspires you. Maybe your art's been the same for decades. Maybe it's time to shift that up. Consider creating a space for meditation, for daily quiet reflection time. Oh my gosh, that's so powerful. I'd like you to also think about, in terms of energy, the stress that's in your life, right? Stress gets such a bad rap, but it's a natural part of living. It's when it's chronic that it becomes problematic and depleting and starts to affect our health. So we need to change our relationship with stress. Oftentimes, we look at situations and feel the stress around them, but it's actually not the situation that's stressful, it's the response to the situation. So when you feel yourself becoming stressed, it's always about the breath, right? So just take a moment and connect to your breathing. And then ask yourself, is this really as awful as it seems? Like that heightened response, right? Is it a few breaths, and is this really as intense as it seems? And what's the worst thing that can happen here? And then often you'll realize, oh, my response was way disproportionate to the actual situation, right? We just needed that moment to kind of separate. By questioning your thoughts and shifting your perspective, you can reduce unnecessary stress in your life, because that's a really powerful and easy way to start to conserve your energy. Stress is such an energy drain. Meditation is a big, important tool for all of this stuff around energy, right? When you start to do a little bit of time in stillness, work with meditation, you're going to start to manage your stress and change your energy both. What people assume, though, about meditation is that, oh, my mind's too busy, I can't do that. I'd say you're kind of missing the point if you're in that frame of mind. Meditation is actually a process to observe and watch the thoughts, but not to get caught up in them, right? A really great way to do this is to use your breath. To meditate is to use your breath as the anchoring point. And you can just focus at the breath coming in and out of the nostrils, for example. And when the mind wanders, just gently pull it back to that focus. You can deepen the breath a little bit, just make it a little bit more under your control, a little bit more regulated, even more powerful, combining breath and that awareness. So start small, just a few minutes. And let that meditation muscle grow, because it will. And soon you'll find yourself yearning for some of that stillness. When I would teach yoga classes, I'd have them, especially the beginners, at the end of class, do a little bit of breathing and then just sit in stillness like a statue for 1 minute. And I know for a lot of those students, that 1 minute felt like the longest minute of their whole entire life. But you do it again and again and again, and then all of a sudden it's like the minute can be 3, it can be 5. And you're able to just drop into that beautiful place of stillness. When we start to work with changing our energy, there is an uncomfortable factor. That's because the old patterns want to remain in control. They just do. People will look around and try to figure things out from an old perspective. Those around you, your peers, for example, might be looking at you and see this change that's going on and feel a little bit out of sorts, and maybe even somewhat threatened by what you're doing and the choices that you're making. And this is why it's so important to you to be committed to this, to know that when you work to change your energy, you're changing your life, right? You're consciously choosing a new life for yourself. You won't necessarily see immediate results, and that's just how it goes, right? It's similarly when you start going to the gym, you don't see muscles building overnight. It takes time. It takes months and years. And that's just part of it, but your life is worth it. You don't have to wait to feel confident or motivated to take action. You can choose right now. Choose the energy you want to embody. Even when you feel you don't have it there, just choose that. I want to feel that. When you choose a new energy, even when you aren't feeling it physically in the body, but you choose that energy and you imagine it, you imagine feeling that, then your brain and your body start to work together. They start to do this thing of aligning, right? And that's what's going to start to facilitate this change of energy. I'd also like you to think about those around you, so your relationships. Are people in your life lifting you up, or are they dragging you down? Just generally speaking. Do they inspire you, challenge you to grow, and support your dreams? Because you know that you are a reflection of the 5 nearest people to you. Do those people have that energy that aligns with what you want? You may not need to throw away those relationships, but I would suggest maybe you do need to be more intentional about who you're spending time with. So seek out people who have the energy you want to embody, that are like the person you want to become. You can join groups or communities of like-minded people and be the kind of person that you want to attract. Start to embody that. Start to feel you are that person already. Act the way you want to become. Be the change you want in the world, as Gandhi said. Changing your energy means embracing emotional intelligence. So being able to experience all of your emotions without being controlled by them. We're not pawns to our emotions, right? We get to experience them, but not be controlled by them. You learn to respond to life rather than reacting to it. This is what all this work is going to do for you. You get to be curious about your emotions. What are they telling you? What needs aren't being met that these emotions are coming up? And in midlife, we seem to have lost, this is a big part of the energy thing, we seem to have lost purpose. Oftentimes, the loss of purpose is just a big energy drain. So many of the men I talk to talk about how they're stuck, right? There's just kind of this heaviness, this inertia. Having a sense of purpose is a surefire way to increase your energy. When you're connected with something bigger than yourself, you feel like your life has some meaning to it. You feel like change is possible, right? What matters to you? That's an important question. So what matters to you? What do you want to contribute to this world? And what legacy do you want to leave? These are big questions, right? And these are the questions we must be asking in midlife. They're so important. So you can start by examining your values and determining that person that you want to be based on your values, right? Then look at ways to start to align your life more so. And this might be something about the career, changing the career or adapting to how you're approaching your current career. It could look like volunteering. It could look like finding other ways to give back. When we move in this stage in the life and beyond, this idea of being of service and giving back really feeds us. It feeds us in a really deep way. So when we talk about purpose, it doesn't have to be some grandiose thing. It just needs to be that thing that resonates with you deeply inside of you. It's the thing that gives you this sense of being, your aliveness, right? And for me, that's the thrust of the coaching that I do. It's to help you to explore this topic of purpose. And if you like this idea of exploring it more, then keep following me, keep plugging in, share your comments and your ideas, and try to engage with other men who are in a similar place in life and start those conversations. It's a really important part of the journey. We get too much of this stuff bottled up inside of us, and that's not good for our energy either. All right, so that's enough for now. I hope I've given you some great food for thought, and I look forward to sharing more with you in the future. Be well.